A hidden global network is quietly dismantling democracy. This is the story of how the Atlas Network builds power and erodes freedom worldwide. Welcome. Today we expose one of the most dangerous, least understood threats to democracy, the Atlas Network. Behind lofty language of freedom and liberty lies a global machine systematically dismantling government protections, promoting corporate rule, and weakening democratic institutions around the world. Let's uncover how it works. The Atlas Network operates as a global coordinating hub, supporting nearly 600 neoliberal and libertarian partner organizations across over 100 countries. It seeds funding, provides leadership training, strategic guidance, and communications expertise. Beneath the rhetoric of free markets and individual liberty, Atlas promotes an agenda of deregulation, climate obstruction, privatization, and shrinking public protections, stripping governments of the ability to defend their citizens. To achieve this, Atlas deploys a multi-pronged strategy, starting with disinformation. Atlas-linked think tanks like the Heartland Institute and Cato Institute spread climate denial globally, training activists to reframe scientific consensus as political conspiracy. Anti-ESG campaigns frame responsible investing as woke capitalism. Protesters are smeared as extremists. Conspiracy narratives like climate lockdowns weaponize pandemic trauma to erode trust in government. Through disinformation, Atlas weakens public resolve for collective action. But disinformation alone isn't enough. They embed themselves directly inside political systems. Atlas doesn't just influence from the sidelines, it inserts trained operatives into governments. In Brazil, Atlas alumni shaped Bolsonaro's economic team. In the US, Atlas partners staffed key Trump administration posts. Through groups like ALEC, Atlas writes model legislation attacking voting rights, labor protections, and environmental regulations. Project 2025 is their blueprint for dismantling US federal agencies in a second Trump term. Behind the scenes, Atlas ensures its funders stay hidden and unaccountable. Atlas operations are fueled by dark money networks like Donors Trust and Donors Capital Fund. This structure shields billionaires like the Kopes, Mercers, and corporate giants like ExxonMobil from public scrutiny. Atlas-affiliated think tanks launder these funds to finance phony grassroots campaigns, manufacturing the illusion of popular support for corporate interests. Corruption is disguised as public policy, and the indoctrination doesn't stop with today's leaders. They are building the next generation. Through programs like Atlas Academy and LibertyCon, Atlas trains thousands of young libertarians worldwide, creating lifelong ideological operatives. University centers funded by Atlas-aligned donors churn out research promoting deregulation and fossil fuels. Even K-12 education isn't spared, as climate skepticism curricula are distributed to classrooms. Elite spaces like the Mont Pelerin Society and ARC deepen ideological cohesion among global power brokers. Meanwhile, civil society and democratic norms are actively targeted and undermined. Atlas-affiliated groups champion election integrity while pushing laws that suppress marginalized voters. They fund strategic lawsuits against climate scientists and universities to intimidate and exhaust them. Regulations protecting workers, the environment, and consumers are reframed as tyranny. The ultimate message: property rights should dominate over democratic rights. Let's see what happens when Atlas Network influence takes hold in real-world governments. Atlas-linked think tanks like Instituto Millennium laid the ideological groundwork for Bolsonaro. Once in power, his administration, heavily staffed with Atlas-trained economists, gutted environmental protections and accelerated Amazon deforestation. Indigenous rights were trampled. The world watched as a climate catastrophe unfolded, fueled by a corporate-first agenda disguised as economic freedom. The same pattern repeated elsewhere, including in the United States. Trump's administration showcased Atlas's model: climate denialists in key agencies, regulatory rollbacks, and a deliberate effort to weaken federal power. Now, Project 2025 aims to go even further, stripping agencies like the EPA, SEC, and DOJ of independence. Simultaneously, state-level Atlas partners push new waves of voter suppression laws, anti-protest bills, and environmental deregulation across America. Northward, Canada faces the same growing threat. In Canada, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's Axe the Tax campaign and anti-climate agenda mirror Atlas talking points. Atlas-affiliated think tanks like the Fraser Institute and Macdonald Laurier Institute flood Canadian media with pro-fossil fuel, anti-regulation narratives. The result? A political climate where environmental destruction is framed as economic common sense. Across the Atlantic, the United Kingdom tells a similar story. Atlas-affiliated think tanks like the Institute of Economic Affairs and Adam Smith Institute were crucial intellectual engines behind Brexit. Today, Nigel Farage and Reform UK advance an agenda shaped by Atlas ideals: aggressive climate rollback, deregulation, and the erosion of government capacity. Climate skepticism, once fringe, is now mainstreamed, poisoning public discourse. France, too, has been targeted, especially its youth. Atlas-linked organizations like Institut Economique Molinari have trained far-right youth, creating a pipeline of ideological operatives for Rassemblement National. These think tanks have shaped Le Pen's policy proposals around economic nationalism, anti-immigration rhetoric, and climate obstruction. In French media, Atlas voices have shifted the Overton window against environmental action and democratic governance. When we step back, the global threat Atlas poses comes sharply into view. Disinformation, political infiltration, corporate corruption, generational indoctrination, media manipulation. The Atlas Network has perfected a multi-front assault on democracy itself, cloaking greed and authoritarianism in the language of freedom. Where Atlas spreads, democratic institutions wither, environmental protections collapse, and inequality deepens. And this is no accident, it is their deliberate end goal. Atlas doesn't just want lighter regulations, they want markets to replace democracy itself. In their vision, environmental protections, labor rights, public health care, and financial regulations aren't safeguards, they are obstacles to be eliminated. Only the wealthy, through their unchecked control of markets, should dictate societal outcomes. Voting access, community protections, and the very idea of a public good are sacrificed at the altar of corporate supremacy. But this future is not inevitable. If we act, we can stop it. The Atlas Network has spent over 40 years building a global machine to undermine democracy. Now defenders of democracy must build their own, exposing Atlas's dark money ties, countering its disinformation, and constructing powerful alternative networks grounded in transparency, equity, and human dignity. Democracy can endure, but only if we fight for it.